How's it going, everybody, and welcome back to Car Rant. It's been a while, but we are in fact back, and we're starting off strong with our small mini series all about mopeds again. If you might recall, mopeds have been a part of this channel for a number of years. I started riding them as a main form of transportation when the race cars were down, and also so I could get to work and do it more affordably. And in an era of e-bikes and e-this, e-that, AI this, AI that, why not come back and show people how it's done with old school mechanical little tiny engines that can. You might recall a few years ago I picked up the little red Metro. We shoved it in the back of the Pajero and we took it sort of apart to try and figure out what was wrong with it. Ultimately, the diagnosis showed that it had some severed wires. Someone tried doing electrical work and didn't know what they were doing and thus killed the bike. My name is Zach Lanza, you're watching Car Rant, and today we are going to be rebuilding the channel by rebuilding this bike. Let's get into it. After a long hiatus away, the itch to just do something mechanical, something creative, bit me really hard. After deciding to not sell my home, I needed to revisit the garage space and rebuild it back to a functional space, not overloaded with junk, but also reorganized. Ian's 240 is now gone. Death Wish still sits as a pile, sitting on the side of the garage. The Gold 240 now lives in the garage, but the RB project is largely where we left it, albeit covered in more leaf litter and dust. And the Stretchro, albeit alive for a short period of time, is once again dead due to electrical issues. But now, we're attempting a rebirth with rebuilding the Little Red. So this is what's left of the Little Red Metro. This part of the bike has around 2,100 miles on it, and it hasn't been running for years. At this point, the back half is now underneath the Stretchro. This front half has just been sitting here as a parts thing for a long time. Still has the VIN number on the plastics and the frame, so we will be able to use this part of the bike to register it and make it into a road-going vehicle again. The nice thing though is that a lot of this is still in very good shape, even if it is on the dusty side. Our goal today is we're going to take this apart, we're going to get all the plastics off, get all the wiring out of it so we can relay in some new fresh cabling for the brakes, things for the wires, and also the signal parts for the fuel system to let us know that it needs more gas. And what, you may be asking, will be going under this instead? That is a GY6 that we just picked up from the ruck shop. This is a GY6. This is a Chinese-made 150cc engine with a long case on it to allow us to fit the bigger wheels and tires. Love you too, boy. I'm trying to tell people about the motorcycle stuff. Yeah, you gotta let me tell them about the motorcycle stuff so we can go riding again. Yeah, especially with this engine. Okay, now that you cover it in dander. This entire system is air-cooled, so it does have induction fans to help cool the system down, things to pull the hot air out, and it's also got a long case on it so we can fit the bigger wheels and tires. That way we have a little more freedom. We will in fact need to take this apart to replace this here spindle with a splined one. That way we can run a wheel hub conversion to have bore lug wheels and tires on this thing like a good person should. When I say that this bike had so many parts that were rounded out already or just straight up did not want to cooperate with my tools, I mean so many parts. With an adjustable wrench, we were able to take out the fuel sending unit so we can actually clean the inside of the tank, and started working on taking the rest of the external plastics off. Next, we began taking off the fuel line system and clearing basically the rest of the belly pan out. After carefully undoing the screws in the back, we were finally able to take the headlight out. We noticed that the inside of this cavity was in really good shape, and that in general there was very few cobwebs and a lot of the gaskets were still intact. The problem was we couldn't take off this cowl until we got this little piece here at the top holding the handlebars together off. The plastics were just barely set, so that you had to kind of tear this piece out in order to finally get the rest of the fairing free. And while I was struggling to get that off, I figured I may as well try and get some of the wiring harness undone so we can get the last of this out and prepare for the new harness that we've already got in the mail. And after a bit of doing, we finally got the fairings free and were able to see what we were working with underneath. After getting the rest of the front fairing free, it was time to try and get these handlebars off so we can get this triple tree out and start scrubbing the frame. But of course, as per usual, everything kind of got stuck. But then after loosening it up just enough, it finally broke free and we could see what we were working with the center tree. So it's now been a few days and we have finally got a few more of the parts in. So we're going to go ahead and get started with some of the engine work. And just to name some of the parts, we do in fact finally have our nice white factory seat frame, a few of the accessory components for the engine such as the decompression tube, and many more engine parts that you will be able to see on the link in the corner. But without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and get started taking apart parts of the engine and transmission assembly so we can change out, say, the spline and a few other odds and ends and prepare those things to be wired up into the full harness. When it comes to the GY6, your main two tools are going to be the 8mm and the 10mm, as all the bolts that hold the transfer case together are going to be 8mm, and there's a handful of odds and ends such as the intake tubes that are 10s. Once you have all the bolts removed, you'll want to grab a small flathead screwdriver and a hammer to just gently tap in to pry the case apart. There usually is a gasket between the cover and the case itself. As you can tell, this guy's on there pretty tight considering it is brand new. Once you pop the case off, you'll then clearly see underneath where the kickstart system is, the clutch, and the variator. This is all part of your transmission. The tricky part now is to very carefully not break any of those fins you see on the variator or damage that clutch bell in any way, shape, or form, because, well, that will affect your performance down the line. Removing the nuts that hold the variator and the clutch in is a challenge, but you'll need to get it done to do this job. They're 17 mils, and once you remove those, you can then slide the variator face and also the actual clutch assembly off of the spindles. That way you can get access to the transmission cover. Once again, your 8mm is going to be your best friend here because just about every single bolt on this thing is an 8mm. You'll also notice that I removed my kickstart. I plan on using just a button start for this, especially considering it's being lowered. And of course, just like with the rest of the casement, this is also held in pretty tightly with a fresh gasket. However, don't make the mistake I do right about here. I cracked this open and completely forgot to check to see if the transmission was empty. I then removed the clutch spindle to take a look at the gear set on the inside and saw that everything was copacetic in there, as well as try to clean up that bit of transmission fluid that's now stinking my garage up while I work on the rest of this. Removing the transfer gears is pretty simple. They do just slide right out, especially if this thing is in good shape like my brand new unit is. And then with a little bit of doing, you should be able to just pull that transmission spindle right out. As you can tell, we have the spline out. This one is significantly longer, but you'll notice this is definitely set up to have a hub assembly on there. That way everything latches together nicely. We're gonna go ahead and shove this through, bolt everything in place, make sure all the C-clamps and everything fit correctly and are nicely lubed. See that? You might have to do a little bit of coaxing considering this just falls straight through, right? So we'll get this lubed up. Hopefully, this might actually fit first try. Oh, there it is. Boom. Perfect fit. We have this gasket, which does have this kind of odd L-shaped thing going on in the corners. I'll just line that up perfect, like so. Oh, like a glove. Just checked underneath. Turning this does in fact turn the spline on the other side, so we're good to go. Just bolt it back together, fill it with fluid, and we're done with the transmission work. Now moving to the intake assembly, this is where you'll find those pesky 10 mils. You will need to take this flange off so we can put on the opposite facing riser. Main reason being that the moment you add in the chassis mount, that will be blocking your carburetor and you won't be able to get the proper airflow or even a filter on. As you can see right here, you won't be able to put that flange in place because unfortunately Well, the plastics that provide that air support to this engine is going to be blocking the spot. As you can see right here, if you try to slide this riser straight down, the plastics prevent it from mating all the way up perfectly, so we will need to take this shroud off. Now, as you can see here, it's a series of 8 mils that will hold that shroud on, revealing all the heat sinks underneath. And here you can see me trying to demonstrate and use the multi-nut method to try and get these posts out. It takes a bit of doing, and I actually end up using 3 nuts to try and get this thing off. But once you do, you'll find you'll be able to unscrew these posts the way you need to, so you can slide in the new posts that come with the riser and change it out. Then putting it all back together just like you would on the engine natively, except this time we're adding in the nice red filter, and you'll see that everything is now facing the correct direction to clear the chassis mounts. So with the attachment of this range extender that we have down here, this little silver block, we're gonna have to cut a notch out so that we can slide all this in place and it'll all fit nice and happily. That way we can still have the proper airflow and everything be copacetic on the inside. And that concludes today's episode. I hope you guys have enjoyed the process of watching this just being torn down and rebuilt. For me, there's just a level of satisfaction with this type of stuff that I hope other people can catch on to. And more importantly, I have some secret content on the way because this video took me about a week to film between, doing life and work and everything in between. We've already started filming episode 2, and you'll get a sneak preview in the very end of the video. But with all of that said, I hope you guys are looking forward to what's coming next. And I myself am now extremely under the gun because I've now signed up for motorcycle classes, learning how to ride a bike and getting my actual motorcycle license so I can legally take the GY6 out on the highway and go for a spin. And without further ado, I'll see you guys on the next episode. Enjoy our sneak preview. God bless y'all, and peace. Listen, I will be the first to say it. Wiring and wiring harnesses are not something that I wish upon my worst of enemies. Y'all don't understand how long it takes to do this. I forgot how difficult doing this can be. I am so committed to this project that I quite literally took a shower with the plastics to clean them up and get all the bugs and stuff out of it. Name me another channel that would do something as crazy as taking a shower with your moped plastics.